Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at two old Dell computers, one being a Dell Dimension 5150 and the other being a Dell Vista 400. The specs of a Dell Dimension 5150 are an Intel Pentium D 945 at 3.4 GHz, 2 GB of DDR2 quad channel memory and a 305 watt PSU. What really got me fascinated was the fact that this computer has a Windows Vista capable sticker on it. The Dell Dimension 5150 also has a DVD-RW drive, 2 USB ports, 4 memory card slots, a headphone jack and a microphone port, and an expansion port. Moving on to the Dell Vista 400. The Dell Vista 400 also has 4 memory card slots, a headphone jack and a microphone port, 4 USB ports, and also a 3094 Firewire port. The specs of the Dell Vista 400 are an Intel Core 2 Quad Q6600 at 2.4 GHz, an ATI Radeon HD 2400 Pro with DDR2 memory and 128 MB of video memory, and a 300 watt PSU. I'll be using this keyboard I had knocking around somewhere, and this Poundland mouse which appears to have a crack in it. The monitor I'll be using is a Dell Ultra Sharp monitor 4x3. I was given this monitor quite recently by someone. The first computer we'll start with is the Dell Dimension 5150, since it's the oldest of the two. Now we ought to have a look inside the computer. By doing so, we simply pull this latch back, which should unlock the side panel. Then the side panel can be removed. Taking a look at this computer, I don't think it's been cleaned once in its life. All the components are covered in layers of dust. Here's the CPU cooler, which is covered in dust. Here's the 300 watt power supply. And here's the ATI Radeon X600 with a bunch of dust on top of it. And a USB hub, USB 1.0, 2 PCI slots and a cobweb. Now I think it's time to take this computer apart and give it the biggest clean and scrub it's ever had. Time to remove some nasty cobwebs. However, when I plugged in the computer, the power button was blinking an orangey colour, which prevented me from booting the computer up. After doing some research, there was a thread on the Dell website where someone else had the same issue. One solution was to replace the power supply or use a spare one. However, thankfully, I had an EVGA 400 watt PSU lying around, so I used that. This used to be the power supply on my old Windows Vista rig, but I decided to upgrade it to a 600 watt. Anyway, let's get on to restoring this computer, replacing the thermal paste and, of course, replacing the power supply to see if that makes a difference. Now let's restore it from what it is now back into its former glory. Here's a 320GB Seagate SATA hard drive. Here's the front faceplate, along with this DVD-RW SATA drive, which is a bit dusty, but oh well. We'll put it to the side for now. Here's what I believe is a card reader, which houses the memory card slots. Here's the old faulty power supply, which I'll be replacing. Oh, the fan looks pretty dusty. That's probably the reason. Here we have the 430 watt power supply. The only reason it's in the 600 watt box is because that's the box my power supply came in. Oh dear, made in China. Well, that explains it all. Here's proof that it's an EVGA 400 watt power supply and not a 600 watt. There we go, all that dry thermal paste is being removed. Now it's time to dust off this air inlet fan, which looks rather dusty. And then it's time to replace the power supply as well. Well, there we go, all reassembled and all cleaned. Let's see if it powers on. Oh, that's quite promising. Yep, and it powers on. The only reason that error has occurred is because the power supply, the new one, doesn't have the correct pin to power the card module. This computer appears to be running Windows XP, which is my third favourite operating system. Of course, you know what my favourite one is. Clues in the name of my channel. Anyway, get ready to hear one of the most amazing sounds of all time. There we go, I hope you like that. And here we're welcome to a rather tidy desktop. Now let's have a look and see what programs were installed on this computer. This list appears to be taking a while to populate. Oh well, it is a rather old computer. I'm interested to see how it runs Windows Vista. Wow, there's a lot of programs installed here. That is a lot of programs. Wow. Here we are, look, we're uninstalling a bunch of programs since I'm not going to need most of these. Here's the specs of the computer if you're interested. I did mention them in the beginning of the video, but here's just a little reminder of the specs of the computer. It appears to be running Windows XP Service Pack 3, which is my favourite version of XP obviously. I think it's everyone's favourite version of XP. Now we're going to run a quick benchmark to see what score we get. Well, this computer appears to have a score of 376.5. Pretty rubbish compared to my Windows Vista rig, but we'll be running a benchmark on Windows Vista as well to see if that improves. Now we're going to run the Windows Vista Upgrade Advisor. I'm not sure if it works in 2019 anymore, but we'll give it a go. Let's click Start Scan. Here's all the editions of Windows Vista, ranging from Home Basic to Ultimate. Of course, this is time-lapsed. Here's Windows Vista Ultimate, Windows Vista Home Premium. Oh, it doesn't work sadly because it can't get any data off the servers, which have obviously been taken down. which is disappointing, but oh well. Now it's time to upgrade to Windows Vista. Windows Vista 32-bit, that is, since this computer doesn't have Windows Vista 64-bit drivers. Anyway, in we go, let's install. Here we have some minor issues, nothing to worry about. It's just that these programs are not compatible with Windows Vista and above. There we go, the installation is completed. Now we just select use recommended settings. Click OK. You're welcome. Now let's click start. Here's an error I've actually never encountered before. Now for another amazing sound. Wait for it. Here we have a Windows XP error on Windows Vista, saying that Windows XP has ended support. That's pretty unusual. And a whole bunch of errors because I haven't uninstalled some stuff properly. Since I literally went in the program files folder and just deleted all the folders. As you can see, this is Windows Vista RTM, my least favourite version of Vista, but still Vista, so I still like it. This computer got a 3.7 on the Windows Experience Index, which is okay. Here we have a recovery partition which is a whopping 74 gigabytes. I tried to extend the disk volume, but it wouldn't let me as there's a tiny little partition in the middle stopping me from doing so. And I can't remove that small partition, which is a pain, but oh well. Anyway, here's the moment you've all been waiting for, a benchmark test on Windows Vista RTM. Wow, that is a lot worse. Bear in mind that this is Windows Vista RTM and this is an old PC, so it's not really optimised to run premium versions of Vista. To help matters, we're going to install Windows Vista Service Pack 1, which does improve the performance of the computer, as well as Service Pack 2 also. Here we go, Service Pack 1 is installed. So yeah, the computer's feeling a lot more snappy. However, we're going to move on and install Windows Vista Service Pack 2 now. And there we go, Service Pack 2 is installed. Now it's time to restore the Dell Vostro 400. Here we have the Dell Vostro 400 plugged in and set up. Now it's time to see what operating system is installed on this computer. It appears to be running Windows 10. However, I can't install it as the mouse doesn't seem to be working for some reason. I tried many times to get the mouse and keyboard to work, but it was never successful. You can tell by me trying to get the keyboard working. I tried many times but still couldn't get my mouse and keyboard to work. Now let's take a quick look inside the Dell Vostro 400. Taking a look inside, it does look rather dusty. As you can see, this case is littered with cobwebs and dust. The CPU fan's all plugged up with dust. The RAM is coated in dust. The whole motherboard's coated in dust. Now let's get cleaning the Dell Vostro 400. Here's the ATI Radeon HD 2400 Pro. Quite dusty, but we can fix that later. Here's a Samsung 320GB hard drive with a nice bit of fluff on it. Here we have a really dusty rear fan. Now what you're about to see is something you really wouldn't have expected. Just look how dusty this is. Wow. Feast your eyes on that. Here's one of the two DDR2 1GB RAM sticks. That's some dry thermal paste. I originally thought that was a thermal pad because of how dry it is, and the fact it's plugged with dust too. I tried hoovering the heatsink and everything, but I decided to take it apart in the end and give it a thorough clean. There we go, looking much better. There we go, as good as new. Let's review the condition of the CPU. That does look pretty dry actually, so I decided to go and get some rubbing alcohol and rub that all off. Here we are, look, an Intel Core 2 Quad Q 6600. Let's apply some new thermal paste, which is Arctic MX2. Arctic Silver MX2 actually. Now we move on to restoring the GPU. The GPU came apart rather easily. The thermal paste is looking pretty dry, but there's also thermal pads which I should look out for. Of course I won't be replacing them with thermal paste because I know that's bad. And there we have it, as good as new, looking good. Here's some aftershots of the computer. It's come up pretty nicely actually, better than I thought it would. So here we are giving the Dell Vista 400 a nice wipe down. Now we're giving the Dell Dimension 5150 a nice wipe down. So here we have it everyone, Dell Dimension 5150 is all nice and clean. It came up absolutely beautifully. Not one little speck of dust on it now, apart from a few scuff marks that I can't remove unfortunately. Oh well. So here we have the Dell Vista 400 all cleaned. As we have a look aside, you can tell it's a far cry from what it used to be. There were cobwebs in every single square inch of this computer. Now not a single cobweb remains. The exact same goes with the Dell Dimension 5150. Much cleaner indeed. Now it's time to install Windows Vista and see how well it runs on this computer. Now we're going to install the drivers on this computer. Windows Vista installed much faster on the Dell Dimension 5150. There we go, now all the drivers are installed. Now we're installing Windows Vista Service Pack 1, which should help performance even more. Here we are, Service Pack 1 is now installed, so performance should be much better now. Now let's install Windows Vista Service Pack 2, which is the most up-to-date version of Windows Vista, and the best version. So here we go, Service Pack 2 is now installed. Now there's only one more update to install now, and that's the platform update, which backports DirectX 11 to Windows Vista. Now the next thing we're going to have a look at is gaming. What I mean by gaming is the loosest terms of gaming, which is, well, you guessed it, Minecraft. Because I don't really have many games, I'm not really a gamer myself. But anyway, we're going to see how Minecraft runs on this computer. Wow, I was not expecting that. We're getting super high frame rates here, with average being about 90 FPS and highest being around 160 and the lowest being around 30 or something like that. Also, just to note, this is Minecraft 1.6.4 because the graphics card's so old it doesn't support newer versions of OpenGL, which is what Minecraft relies on. Well, versions 1.7.2 and up, I believe. Now moving on to the Dell Dimension 5150, we're going to show you what happens when you use version 1.7.2 or above. It even says old graphics card detected here, look. And that's about as far as we'll be able to get. For playable experience, we've had to put it on low settings. We've got about 19 FPS on average, lowest being about 8 FPS or something like that, and highest being about 30. This graphics card is nowhere near as good as the other one, in the Dell Vista 400. And they're both pretty rubbish graphics cards in 2019, but oh well. Minecraft was playable. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really enjoyed making this video actually. This video took me 3 weeks to make, but I really enjoyed it. It was really enjoyable taking these two computers apart and applying the thermal paste and all that stuff. So yeah, thank you very much. See you in the next video. And goodbye.